Hey Saber fans, Mark here again, talking about blade tips. Uh, be careful, for our younger viewers there will be discussion about diameter, tips, and penetration in this video. Rob the other night on the Facebook page was having some issues with his blade tip not seating down all the way and actually being a little cockeyed looking at the end of the tube. I'm not sure how the tubes are manufactured, whether there are threads cut in the tube and then the tip itself threads it, just screws in, or whether the tube is blank and the tip is forced into it and cuts its own threads on the way. Either way, it sounds like, if the first version of that's true, then it's just cross-threaded in there and you could back it all the way out and reinsert it. Otherwise, maybe just tightening it down would fix it up, or you could again just back it out and reinsert it. Let's take a look at some tubes. Here's an old V3 Saber Forge blade that I have that, as you can see, I managed to break. This had the glued in type tip. It penetrates about 1/4 inch down into the tube, and it's just held in with glue. Now, I never had any issues with these because my dueling style is about the same as Obi-Wan's in the first movie, a 65-year-old man. But on a nice hard fast contact with a concrete floor, this did manage to break out, and when it torqued out, it cracked the tube on the way. Now, I've glued all this back up with some pretty good plastic glue, but this blade is basically kind of in my reserve pile now. What would have prevented this would be something that makes better contact with the tube and doesn't depend just on glue to stick it together, something that actually makes a mechanical contact, and that's where the threaded tip comes in. It's a fantastic idea. Here is the current V4 blunt tip blade tip. As you can see, it's threaded. It's got a mirror. It's in a little recess, nicely designed. I just unscrewed this out of one of my blades from one of my newer Sabers, and you can see there are some threads in here. Again, I don't know whether just the act of putting this in initially generated that, or whether they actually cut threads in these things. Either way, if your blade tip comes and it's loose, not seated down all the way, or like Rob had, it's a little cockeyed, my solution would be to take it all the way out and thread it back in. How do you take it out? It's not glued, so it'll just unscrew on its own. You need some pliers. I use this. This is a set of 10-inch Craftsman pliers you get at Sears. They're bigger than the ones you usually see, because when you expand these out, you get you about a 1-inch hole, right here in the big part of the jaws. You could use a regular set of pliers, they'll expand out big enough. Now, these will damage the hell out of your blade or your tip if you use them like they are, so you need to pad them up with something. I use a little piece of leather. I've used the little rubber grippy thing they sell at the grocery store to help get caps off of stuff. Just something that'll have a little bit of a grip and keep these from digging into the plastic is what you need. The leather seems, honestly, to work the best. If you don't have pieces of leather laying around, you could sacrifice an old pair of gloves, old belt, something like that. Just has to be flexible enough to go into these pliers. I made a video about this before, which was described as condescending and snarky, so I'm trying to be nice about all this. I mean, I understand that not everyone has a lot of tools, not everyone has a lot of mechanical ability to recognize what's going on sometimes in these situations. But this is a very straightforward thing. This is basically tightening a screw. So, once you've backed it out, you're going to want to reinsert it. Typically when you've got two threaded things, you're going to get it started, and then I like to turn it left, anti-clockwise, however you want to call it, till you feel a bump, and that means that first thread's lining up. And then as you can see, this thing's threading in easy on its own. I could probably, because I have really strong meat hooks, I could probably get this damn thing tight enough by hand. And as you can see, I think it's in there pretty good. There's well, there's a little bit of an air gap. I can kind of see it right there against the dark background. So, wrap that little bit of leather around the thing. Get your pliers. Make sure you're on the tip and not up on the blade. And hold it. You don't need to really lean into gripping on it. And then just turn with your hand, turn the tube into it. Okay, and I think that is good and tight. I don't perceive a gap at all. That's not going anywhere. You could have put a little glue in there. I don't think it makes a difference. I don't think it helped. Anyway, I hope that helps. I hope it wasn't snarky and or condescending for anyone. And you can get tools like this anywhere. Do they make padded ones? Yes, they do. They're used in plumbing a lot and other applications where you don't want to mar or damage surfaces. I don't happen to own any. I don't see the point in investing in that unless I was going to make a career out of tightening up plumbing or blade tips. I'm sure they probably use something like that at the forge when they put these things together. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'm now going to go back to full-time trying to promote my convention, which is coming up in a week. See y'all later.